Thank you very much, Daniel. That's a good old marathon session we've just had there. So thank you all for staying with us and concentrating. We've only got a short time to come up with any questions, but could I suggest a slight variation on the approach we've had so far? It'd be nice to hear from people directly, perhaps. So if you've got any burning questions in any of our 5 locations, perhaps people would be kind enough to come up to the camera and do it in person, so we can get a feel for the level of excitement that you've generated throughout the country.
Absolutely. I think whilst that's happening, we should, before people have to dash off to get trains and everything else, we should recognise that this has been a bit of a test, and we'd be very grateful for any feedback on this event, and so that if we try similar kind of events in future, we can make sure they run even more smoothly than this one has.
Brilliant. Well, can we say a big thank you to the Committee on Climate Change for setting up and running with this event. We're most grateful to them, and to everybody throughout the country and beyond who's participated. But just before you go, are there any burning questions? Manchester, you've always got something to say for yourselves. Let's be having you.
Right, Wakefield.
Right. Okay, this is Manchester calling?
Manchester is calling. Come in, Manchester.
Is it Manchester calling? Hello there. We'd like to focus on engaging with SMEs. Obviously, we've done a lot of work around engaging SMEs within the Manchester and within the Northwest. And just in terms of from the findings that you're seeing there, you've got that down pretty much as a kind of amber around engagement. Is that something that you're confident about in terms of thinking that is embedded across our SME base?
And certainly, we know there's support available. We know the Environment Agency has their Climate Ready service, which supports very much on this, and obviously the work that the Climate UK is doing across the country as well. So it feels as though that for those SMEs that want to find out about what climate change might mean for their business, the tools are available. But I guess what we don't know is whether SMEs at scale are taking those up and are implementing the kind of measures that we might suggest. And so one of our recommendations for the business chapter is for the Environment Agency to evaluate at this point, given they've been in place for a couple of years, to evaluate the adaptation tools and guidance to make sure that they reflect business needs, and to see what more they could do to make sure they're taken up across the board.
Great, thank you, Daniel. So let's just go around the country, as it were, rather than around the room. John in Wakefield, do you have any burning questions there that you'd like to finish off with?
Hi, Mike. I knew you were going to come to me next. Can you hear me okay? What I was going to comment on, I suppose, was for me just recognising a lot of the actions that have been highlighted have a very kind of local or area-specific focus, and so far a lot of the evidence isn't really presented in that way. So I just wondered if there's any thoughts or kind of directions of travel in trying to make recommendations, data collection, or specific to the local areas to help us focus our efforts.
I'm afraid I was struggling to hear the question. You were breaking up a bit, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I'm afraid we couldn't really hear that very clearly, John. So sorry about that. We're going to have to move on to another location. Exeter, Jodie and George, is there anything from your guys?
Yes, we have someone.
Come on, move.
Can you hear us here? Can you hear us?
We can hear you. We can't see.
I've got to go that way.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, yes.
I'm just wondering, you've listed your energy infrastructure has green lights across the board, and I just wondered whether, although there seems to be a lot of it seems to be based on flood risk, whether you'd considered capacity risk, particularly as we've seen in the some of the energy strategies that we are going to be looking at increased dependence on electricity for transport and the electrification of heat.
No, indeed, and it is an issue that the mitigation and the Global Budget Committee have looked at, but it's not, the kind of capacity issue isn't a climate change risk, so it's not something you'll find covered in the adaptation report. So yeah, the mitigation side of the committee have looked at obviously things like the balance in energy technologies and what balance is sensible, and investment in smart grids and the balance between renewables and base load provided by nuclear, coal, gas, and other aspects. But it's certainly not something we've looked at on an adaptation point of view. I guess one thing we did look at within the energy sector is about water demand for energy production. A lot of water, including fresh water, is used for cooling. Obviously, our entire nuclear fleet is around the coast at present and therefore uses seawater, so it's not such an issue there, whereas in France, a lot of nuclear power stations are located inland, and that was a problem in 2003 when they had to be shut down because the water in the environment was too warm to be used for cooling. But certainly in the UK, we don't have the same large power stations are located either on the coast too or alongside major estuaries where freshwater is relatively abundant and expected to remain so. And actually the water intensity of energy production again has been falling in recent years, although is expected to rise in the kind of medium to long term.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Exeter, are you satisfied with that response?
Yes, thank you.
Good stuff. Excellent. Let's go south. Brighton. Kristen and Carol.
Hi. Can you hear us?
Yeah, loud and clear.
We still do have a few people, but we have someone else who wants to ask the questions.
Fire away. The infrastructure chart on resilience, there was is there a plan, is there action? I noticed that road and rail were there. Some of the most resilient infrastructure, for instance, the 1987 hurricane, was walking and cycling, when you could actually get around when everything else had stopped. Walking trips and cycling trips are short, but then so are most car trips. So I'm surprised you haven't got that in there, got walking and cycling in there. Every local transport plan has got reams of plans for walking and cycling, and in the city I'm in, Brighton and Hove, there's a lot of decent walking and cycling networks and environment, and take-up is high. In smaller towns like Eastbourne, Worthing, Hastings, the plans are there, but implementation is very, very slow. So I'd say you need an amber on action, because a lot of these smaller towns with less ambitious plans and perhaps fewer resources aren't there in terms of the green strand across the page for action. So walking and cycling, why aren't they there? They're strategically important to multiply out their cumulative effects over the nation. So in a sense, they are a nationally important infrastructure. And they're also low carbon.
Thank you for that very long question.
Absolutely.
You have a short answer to that, Daniel?
Yep. Well, absolutely. We recognise that active transport delivers a range of different benefits across different chapters in terms of the built environment, healthy and resilient communities, as well as infrastructure. As always, we have limited resource. We can't look at every aspect. And in the infrastructure chapter, we were somewhat led by the government's own assessment of the key infrastructure sectors, which are set out in the series of national policy statements. So unfortunately, it was one that we couldn't get to within this report, but certainly we would promote active transport as a kind of low regret means of meeting a range of different objectives, and it's certainly something that we want to see rolled out more generally.
Great, thank you. I'm going to rephrase, reissue the question from Wakefield, which is a very valuable one. I think a lot of interest in this potentially. Will there be more focus on presenting future data and actions in an area-specific way rather than nationally? Given the fact that we've got a lot of kind of local stakeholders gathered for these events, do you have a reflection on that?
Absolutely. One of the things we recommended was that the National Adaptation Programme should be more will have a spatial component to it, given that climate change risks will play out differently in different parts of the country. Our data sets, where we allow them, where they are, where we have the information, we present things spatially. For example, in how individual local authorities are progressing with local flood risk management strategies. And actually, even though in the main report we focus on national level information, website you'll often find the data broken down by region or by local authority. So if there's certain data sets you'd be interested in, either contact us directly or have a look on the report page of the website. Scroll down to the bottom and you'll see all the data sets there. For example, the study that I mentioned earlier about new development in the floodplain, we published a spreadsheet which takes each local authority district and sets out how many new homes in different categories of flood risk have been built since 2001. It's one of those things that I'm sure someone will pick it up at some point and start to publish maps and other things, but certainly hasn't been picked up to date.
Great, thank you very much. And finally, Melton Mowbray, do you have a question that you'd like to finish the session on?
I've got a question. And there was one that came up about in terms of business and business continuity in relation to the impacts of climate change. Some of the findings were as expected, like larger businesses are doing more than smaller businesses. And I just wondered whether any more work had been done on sharing good practice about how to engage SMEs and getting them to think around these business continuity issues. We've done stuff locally and regionally, but it would be interesting to know what you've picked up on the national basis.
Okay, well, I think that's a perfect question to end on, because we recognise that our expertise in the committee is limited, and it's over to people like Climate UK, the Environment Agency, Climate Ready Service, the people who are actually out there talking to people on a day-to-day basis who understand how to engage SMEs and have done so much to promote climate change adaptation in the years to date. So I wouldn't call myself an expert, and I'm afraid we didn't pick up. Certainly, one of the things we do want to make sure is that the kind of services and the advice that are out there already are continue, and that the lessons are captured and built on as we move forward.
Well, that's a great note on which to end. Thank you very much. I just want to read out a comment from Christian Kind in Germany. Who says, thanks for the detailed presentation. Great climate-friendly setup for the presentation of a report. Really appreciate that, because it also makes it possible for non-UK residents to get valuable insights without having to travel. Good to know it's being well received beyond our borders. So thank you once again, everybody, for participating. Thank you, Daniel and team, for all your work in preparing for this. Really appreciate it, and see you soon. Thanks again.
Thanks very much. You do a Mexican wave?
Yeah.
Come on, Exeter. What are you doing? Come on, Exeter. Go on. Yeah. Oh.
Never mind. All right.
Bye.
Cheers. See you soon.
Bye. Thank you.